O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You know what my favorite text is? A waypoint in the onX Hunt app to a goblin turkey. The list on the onX Hunt app features for chasing turkeys is long, but knowing exact public and private boundaries and land ownership details will help you find more places to hunt, whether that's on public or private. I'll be toting the Hunt app through the spring woods in a few states this year, and I recommend you do the same if you want more turkeys on your table. Also, onX has a special offer for you. Use code BEARGREASE to receive 20% off your membership at onxmaps.com/hunt this spring.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
My name is Clay Newcomb, and this is a production of the Bear Grease podcast called the Bear Grease Render, where we render down, dive deeper, and look behind the scenes of the actual Bear Grease podcast. Presented by FHF Gear, American-made, purpose-built hunting and fishing gear that's designed to be as rugged as the places we explore. All right. Man, this is like groundbreaking stuff. This has never happened before in the Bear Grease podcast world, doing a live podcast. So we're in just outside of Bentonville, Arkansas, at the Black Bear Bonanza. So for all the people that are here live, we're gonna be yeah, there we go. We got a pretty good crowd here.
Way more people than we thought we'd have.
Yeah.
Some of y'all got to
We
leave.
love you all.
Yeah, so we this podcast will go out on the Bear Grease platform here in a couple of weeks, assuming that these guys don't just say like ridiculous stuff that makes me just like cancel the whole thing. So maybe you guys just get to hear it all on your own. I don't know. This has been so much fun. This event has been in the making for several years.
Yes.
Yeah, we were just about to pull the trigger on it 2 years ago. And I know most of you hillbillies don't get out much, but there was a global pandemic. We didn't hear about it much here, but there was a global pandemic that kind of shut the world down. And I think the event was planned for March.
It was the end of March 2020. So
it was, yeah. And
where were you then?
Yeah.
Good timing.
So
Perfect.
we had this like identical event planned. Myorn was going to come, and we were going to have a live recording of what at that time was the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. So maybe, I think it's better. I think we're all probably better than we were 2 years ago.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. I want to introduce my guests, and each one of them are here for a very particular reason. And that reason will become clear maybe as we go further. This is James Brandenburg. James is the lead man for the Arkansas chapter of the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers.
Yep. Hello.
James has been emceeing today. And James was on the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast with me several times, and he always did. I like talking at James. Like I don't know how much that he says that is like really profound, but I find when I'm within arm's reach of the guy that like I like talking at him. So that's a big compliment, James.
I feel like that basically what I am is just there as a wall for you to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
And you solve most of your own problems without me intervening.
If I'm being honest with you, the first time we said guard the gate in the context of guarding the gate in predator hunting, being the gate for the anti-hunting community to step into our space as North American hunters, was when I was talking to James. And it was only after that I was like, we got to guard the gate. And then since that time, we've talked more and more on that and built this idea that I think is catching on in the country, is that we have an incredible thing in North America that nobody else has, which is this opportunity to hunt wildlife, to hunt on public lands. And we have the most successful wildlife management system of anywhere on planet Earth in the history of planet Earth. And the way that those who would be against us for whatever reason, the platform that they often target to enter into our beautiful space that works so well is through predator hunting and sometimes through bear hunting. And so I feel like our job is to tell the story of the bear hunter, give context to it. Why would somebody want to shoot a bear? We like bears. And, our message is we love bears more than anybody. We want bears to thrive more than anybody does. There's nobody on planet Earth that wants there to be more bears in Arkansas than me and Myorn Means and a bunch of you guys. And that's the truth. And it's a difficult sell. It's a multi-step sell to convince someone with no history, no connection to hunting to say killing a bear is actually a good thing for the big picture. I mean, that's a multi-step sell. It's like, well, yeah, we are taking one individual out, but, for the habitat that we have, that animal needs to be taken out, and there's selective measures, and the Game and Fish is monitoring, multi-step sell. It's a very easy sell for someone with no even emotional connection to hunting like most of us here would have, historical connection, to go, man killing bear equals bad. Done deal. So here in Arkansas, thank goodness we do not have that problem. And we're here today because we plan on never having that problem here. But we live in such a world that is so interconnected. In my work with Bear Hunting Magazine, I was introduced to a world I was absolutely unfamiliar with, which is a world that is, just that the hunting community is under attack in other places. 20 years ago, growing up in Arkansas, if you told me that, I would have said, man, you're just crying wolf. I mean, who's coming to Arkansas telling us we can't hunt? And you guys know it, the world's changing quickly.
Yes.
And what we can do now is build a foundation of understanding, a context, knowledge base. And we're not mad at anybody. The people that might be against us, we're not against them. We're not trying to be ugly and stomp our feet. We're trying to be the smart, wise guys. By wise guy, Brent's kind of a wise guy in the negative way. No,
Wise something.
The guy with the most knowledge, the guy with the most wisdom, the guy with the most understanding of the big picture, I think wins inside of this. And so that's what we're trying to do, is just educate people on why we're doing what we're doing. So James Brandenburg was there when we talked about that. That was introduction number one.
That's a classic.
We may not make it very far.
Yeah,
Did you see how that went? I just kept quiet and he let him talk.
What did I tell you?
You wasn't lying. You just
It was
bouncing off of him.
You guys are welcome.
I will not go in sequential order here. To my left, this is Myorn Means. Myorn Means is, I've known Myorn since 2008 or 9 or
Somewhere around there.
somewhere
yeah.
down there.
A while.
Myorn is the large carnivore biologist for the state of Arkansas. Is that the way you'd say it?
The only.
The only, one and only.
He leads himself. Yeah, I have a small to medium-sized personnel staff of me, myself, and I.
Yeah. So Myorn's worked with the Game and Fish his whole career out of college.
25 years with
Yeah.
the agency this year.
Yeah.
27 years working with black bears in Arkansas.
Yeah. So Myorn is the resource for knowledge about Arkansas bears, and I'm going to get Myorn in a little bit to give us the story of Arkansas bears. Because if you're here today, no matter if you're from Oklahoma or Missouri, you need to know the story of how bears got here. This is my wife, Misty Newcomb. Misty is a classic on the bear grease render because she keeps us in line, and I get more comments. She keeps me in line. I get more comments about Misty being on the render, and so I just keep bringing her on. Not because of the comments, but because I like her. But
I hear there was
He likes
confusion today that someone tried to sell themselves as me.
yeah,
Is that
was
someone tried
him.
to steal my identity today? You introduced.
I got the beard.
Yeah,
That's how you tell us
That's how you
apart.
tell us apart. Britt and I, we often get mistaken for one another.
yeah.
But
I don't ever mistake them for one another.
Good thing. A good deal.
Brent Reaves. Everybody would know Brent Reaves from the Bear Grease Render. And Brent and I have been friends for a long time. And we've bear hunted a lot together in different places. And Brent is here for the Southern Wit and Charm. So if you have a little meter and you're taking notes, that's the only reason I keep him around. Brent says stuff to me every single time I'm around him that I say, did you just make that up or did somebody tell you that? What I have noticed is his stories are often inconsistent, though. Because sometimes he's like, my dad told me that. And the next time it'd be like, my uncle told me that. And the next time it'd be like, I made that up. So I don't know. It's hard to know the truth.
I lie a lot.
I keep him around, though. Brent's a great friend of mine.
That's how you tell the difference.
And then, final, and definitely not least, on the end here is my friend Moe Shepherd. And Moe is here for a very specific reason. I've got a story I want him to tell you later. But Moe is like a mountain man. If I think about Arkansas guys that are just woodsmen, just real deal woodsmen, Moe's one of the most accomplished big woods mountain hunters that I know. And he and I have corresponded a lot with bear hunting. When I was really trying to learn how to bear hunt in national forest without the use of bait, which we can talk about a little bit today, Moe was a resource for me because he spent his whole life in the mountains and killed bears on purpose in national forest, not an incidental deer kill. Some of them were incidental. I think he got lucky on, probably a third of them. But
that's your opinion.
No, but I just have a lot of respect for Moe as a woodsman. But hey, okay, I got a little ahead of myself here, which I tend to do sometimes. Do y'all know what the Bear Grease Render is? We got a lot of nodding heads. So the Bear Grease podcast is our documentary style podcast that is not like this. It's where we have, we have specific topics. If you hadn't heard it, specific topics, and we really dive in deep, and it's a well put together, like polished podcast. This, I'll tell you the truth. A lot of it was because we couldn't do that every single week. It was just too much work. We had to figure out a way to do something else. So we put together an eclectic group every week on the off weeks to typically talk about what the podcast topic was about the week before. So y'all understand the format. That's what we're not going to do that this week because this is a special one. We're gonna talk about bears. Myorn, why don't you give us a rundown of just bears in Arkansas and kind of just a historical look,
How much time we have left?
That's good. I know you could talk for an hour about it.
I'm going to make this real abbreviated and real quick.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of you know that Arkansas at one time, we used to unofficially be known as the Bear State.
Bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back. Before we were the natural state or the land of opportunity, at the time of settlement, we were called the Bear State. And it was thought at the time of settlement in Arkansas that we may have had as many as 50,000 black bears in the state. And, of course, the landscape was completely different than it is now. I mean, we had vast expanses of bottomland hardwood, mature forest, upland hardwood pine mix, and it was just a different ecosystem than it is today. At the time of settlement, very briefly, bears had one very sought-after commodity that was plentiful in Arkansas, and that's that right there.
He's holding up a jar of bear grease.
Bear oil. And we all know kind of what happened with the demise of the whales. The whales were sought and hunted for their blubber to render down the fat for oils. Well, the same thing happened with bear. Their oil or their fat was highly coveted. market hunting wise. So what better place to get oil, bear fat, than in the bear state, right? And so at the time of settlement, through settlement into Arkansas, it became a really sought after commodity. Bears were market hunted, unceasingly or without any regulation or anything. And so they were almost extirpated from the state completely. In fact, by 1951, a man named Trustin Holder did a land survey of the state of Arkansas and found that the only remaining population that he had evidence of was in the lower White River drainage, Scrubgrass Bayou, and it was thought that we may have had as many as 50 bears left in the entire state. Now, if you're a big Clay Newcomb podcast fan, and if you've listened to his podcast with Ori Province, some of those really old timers that lived in the Ouachitas or the Ozarks, they'll tell you, hey, when I was a kid back in the 30s or 40s, we saw a bear. So is it likely that there were some remnants of the mountain bear population still out there? Sure. But 1958, Game and Fish embarked what is still to this day a historical reintroduction effort. And over a 10-year period, they reintroduced 254 bears from Minnesota and Manitoba, Canada, into the Ozarks and Ouachitas of the state. And the forests were grown back up at that time, and it was really perfect bear habitat. And there wasn't a season on them at that time.
Can I interject
You
something?
bet.
I think this is a compelling part of the story that gives it a little more context, is that from the time of white European settlement of this part of the world, which would have been, in the early 1800s, the first people were getting here pretty much and starting to settle. By the turn of the century, by 1900 and on a little bit further, almost all of Arkansas would have been cut for timber to build the eastern U.S. I mean, they were sending timber from here and marketing back, especially after the railroads, they would have done that. But basically, by the 1950s and 60s, well, go back. The national forest, what am I looking for? The federal government protection of national forest started with Teddy Roosevelt. I want to say in the teens. When was
early
it?
1900s, before 1910. I
Before
think it was 1908.
1908. Teddy Roosevelt set up the Forest Service. And so they started protecting these big blocks of what became public land.
Yep.
And so for 60 years, the timber was able to regrow. So in the 50s and 60s, for the first time, a bunch of our habitat all of a sudden had this big timber and was good for bear habitat. So it was like the right time, habitat was right, everything was right. And so that's why it was a success.
That's exactly right. And, the forests were coming back, bears were protected. So it was just excellent bear habitat. And, bears have proven one thing, not only here in Arkansas, but about anywhere else, but given the opportunity and the right kind of habitat and circumstances, their populations will flourish. And so the population flourished, and it actually flourished to the point that by 1980, Game and Fish reopened bear season in the state. And we've had a bear season this last year, marked the 41st modern day bear season. If you'll look at our bear harvest since 1980, it's just been a steady increase all the way up. We think we probably have around 6,000 bears in the state now, give or take a few hundred or maybe even 1,000. But probably one of the most unique things about bears in Arkansas is we seem to be looping through these 20-year cycles. The bears were reintroduced back around 1960, give or take a few years. By 1980, 20 years later, we're able to reopen bear season in the state. And from 1980 to 2000, our bear population had increased in such a way that we were not harvesting the number of bears we needed incidentally. Right. So what do we do in 2001 to increase harvest rates? We added baiting to the regimen,
Opened up baiting.
to our harvest strategy, or to our regulation strategies. And then, so here we are 20 years later in the same bear population, and what are we talking about now? Reintroducing a bear season to the Gulf Coastal Plain of Arkansas.
That's a big deal.
That is a
real
big
Yeah,
deal.
that is a big deal.
And so, I mean, it's just a good testament to great conservation efforts by game and fish. And, land use patterns change. Everything changes, over time. But it's something that I've certainly feel privileged to be a part of, to be in a state that has done this so successfully, reintroduced bears so successfully.
You may have said it, but in the biological community, the reintroduction, which a reintroduction is different than that is a specific terminology to describe taking adult wild animals and relocating them and turning them loose. But it's considered the most successful reintroduction of large carnivores in the world.
That's right.
That still stands?
That's right. It still stands. I mean, no other natural resource agency anywhere in the world has done what Arkansas has done so successfully with a large carnivore.
And that's something to be proud of.
That's
It is.
awesome.
It is. I mean, it really is.
And to put it into context too, when you look at you type in your phone for a heat map of North America for where our bear populations are, and you'll see a bunch of red in the eastern United States. I mean, one of the strongholds of the black bear is in the east. The southern Appalachians all the way up into Maine, into Canada, all the way down into Florida. I mean, the eastern U.S. has some incredible bear populations, more than us. I mean, you go into West Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia, man, they have some incredible bear populations. Okay, so imagine all these bears here, and then all of Canada is bear central. I mean, Canada is the wilderness that they actually have in Canada is just remarkable in terms of actual definition of wilderness being places where people and civilization and roads are not. So Canada still has very much a strong bear population. And then it loops into the Rocky Mountain West. And remember, I'm painting a picture of a heat map. The Rocky Mountain West all the way down to Old Mexico has black bears. Now, all the western states, a lot of them have pretty good bear populations, very good bear populations in the Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana. So there's a big hole in our map, though, in the central U.S. From about middle Kentucky over to the Rocky Mountains, and the Great Lakes have bears too. So from like Michigan down, the whole mid-South and South, no bears, except for this one little red dot about that big, which is the Arkansas bear population. So, I mean, think about that. I mean, when you're looking at this as a continental resource, it's pretty wild that we've got bears here. And now, and what Myorn could tell you better than me, is that from the reintroduction of those 254 bears, now Missouri, these bears are moving into Missouri, such that Missouri has had their first bear season. And we're going to talk, I believe Laura Conley will be here later.
She will
right
be
here now. They're going into Missouri. They've moved over into Oklahoma. Just this week, did you hear about the legislation where in Louisiana they're proposing the bear season in northern Louisiana?
I kind of got wind of that a few months ago talking to Louisiana's bear biologist, but she thought it might be coming. So,
well, they put it out as a official proposal.
So,
but I mean, that's massive conservation success in 2022 when we live in such an urbanized world. And this is what I always say: whatever is happening ecologically in North America, for some wild reason, has been beneficial to black bears. I mean, and so to me, it's kind of poetic in a sense that the American frontier truly was fueled by bear meat and bear grease. That is not hyperbolic. I mean, people used to not eat deer meat, just keep their hides, and they killed bears for their meat and for their hide. Well, they use their hides too, but for their oil. I mean, so this bear was so important. And then there was a time when the bears were extirpated, just like, Arkansas is a small microcosm of what happened in bigger places too. The bears were gone. People forgot. I mean, literally in Arkansas, people forgot. I mean, it's like bears weren't here basically in a functional way for 70 years, 60 years. And then all of a sudden in the 80s, it was like, holy cow, we got bears. And then what Myorn walked through from us having a bear season in 1980 till 2001. And I'm about to make a claim here that if somebody can dispute me, they will, I'll give them a jar of bear grease. So during that period of time, Arkansas was probably killing less than 150 bears a year, maybe. There was no baiting. So from 1980.
Probably around in there, yeah.
I think I saw
harvest was, yeah, it was just pretty anemic, yeah. I mean, because most people had to do it. It was most of the harvest at that time was incidental to deer hunting. Deer season and bear seasons ran concurrent. And so, most people didn't actively hunt bears. They were out deer hunting, and, I see a bear, I shoot a bear. So bear season's open. So really up until 2001, I would say the majority of the bear harvest was incidental to deer hunting.
And that's exactly my point, is that guys, there were some, but there weren't a lot of people really targeting bears. 2001, they decided, I'm building to a point here that I want everybody to hear, is that in 2001, they said, we have so many bears in Arkansas, we need an effective way to manage these bears. Because to take out, typically in bear management, to take out 10% of a bear population per year is going to equate to that population remaining stable for the most part. And Myorn could tell us a lot about that. In general, that would be a true statement. And so they said, we cannot harvest the number of bears that we need for the habitat that we have using incidental deer harvest to kill these bears. Did you ever kill a bear in the 90s?
Yeah, in 1990, I killed my first bear.
1990. Wow. Did you do it on purpose, or was it
I was bear hunting.
See, there weren't many, for real. I thought you'd kill them early. Were you in that? Did you hunt the first?
I hunted the first year in 1980.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I hunted each year. I hunted each year up till 1990, and I killed my first bear in 1990. So
I'm curious to see how many here did hunt bear prior to 2000 in Arkansas.
Wow. Anybody?
One.
Moe?
Me.
Yeah.
Poor old lonesome me, no wonder.
That's why you're up here. Well, okay. So what they had to do, and it was a management decision that the Game and Fish did, is they said, we're going to manage our bears with bow hunters. And I'm putting words kind of in the, this is what I've heard. We're going to manage bears with bow hunters on private land over bait. And that was an extremely critical and I think brilliant move for the state, because all of a sudden it opened up a real possibility for people to tap into this resource. It kind of opened the floodgates for hunters to really be able to kill one.
It really did. It allowed people to kind of target bear, so to speak.
Yeah.
And after that point, once people learned how to bait bears and how to go about it, there was a learning curve associated with it. But after a few years, when the culture became not acceptable, but when people started learning how to do it, that's when you saw our harvest in the state really take off.
This is a principle, too, inside of wildlife. And I saw this as a kid growing up in a part of Arkansas that was a really good bear area, is that because it was really difficult to target bears, they held little value, I would say. For real, like cultural value, like my dad would tell you, it was kind of like, man, you don't want a bear anywhere around where you're hunting. They'll tear up your deer stands. They'll tear up your deer feeders. They're trouble. And I saw people killing bears and just kind of like, almost like a trash animal.
Yeah.
That kind of a vermin mentality. And that is not a blanket statement. There were people that were killing them and loving them, like Moe. But in general, I stand by that there wasn't a great incentive for someone to be a bear hunter because it was so difficult. And when they liberalized that season, all of a sudden we started hunting and we were like, holy cow, we can actually go kill a bear.
Absolutely.
And we learned how to bear hunt. We learned about bear meat. We learned how to, we're still learning just kind of this how unique this wildlife commodity is. But I refuse to let anybody tell me that baiting bears is a negative thing. And you shouldn't either. It's a management tool for game agencies to harvest the number of bears that they need to. And I'm on the national platform a little bit, so people sometimes give me a hard time. And I absolutely will run someone into the ground if they say that hunting a bear over bait isn't hard, isn't fair chase, or is a lazy man's way to hunt. And I'm preaching to all y'all, hunting bears over bait is good. And don't ever let anybody come in this state and say that it's not.
And that's what they're doing. I mean, it sounds like I'm preaching to a choir that's like, we already know, we're in the church. But man, in Maine, the Humane Society of the United States comes in and says, man, baiting bears is, they come up with all the reasons why that you shouldn't do it. And so there is a time when we may have to be like, well, if we build it strong enough, they won't ever happen here. But my point is, from the day the first bear ever killed over bait, I was like, this is a real deal. This is cool. And you don't have to have access to private land and hunt over bait to kill a bear in Arkansas. And we've proved that. And guys like James has proved that. So there definitely somebody that has private land in Arkansas and some of the key bear areas, yeah, you got a leg up on us. And I mean, I'm one of those guys. There's some guys that were born in Stuttgart and have access to the world's best duck hunting. There's some guys that were born in Iowa and have the world's best whitetail deer hunting. And then, so because I do hear that sometimes, like guys are like, well, private land, guys get all the bears. And it's like, man, it's just either find private land that you can hunt, which you can do, or learn to hunt them in national forest, which you're hearing me preach about. Hunting bears over bait and how much I absolutely love it because you can be selective. And we can preach that because we are selective. I hadn't killed a bear over bait in Arkansas since 2006. Last year, I killed the first bear over bait since 2006 in Arkansas. It's because I'm waiting on a 500-pound bear in a big male. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And if we use the system right, and as bear hunters, we actually use baiting as a method to be selective. And Myra and I have talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Letting the juveniles and females go and actually being selective, we can do a whole lot more than if we have a harvest with a bunch of sows. But I said all that to say, hunting a bear in the national forest on purpose, hunting them like deer, is by far the hardest hunt that I do in North America. I love it. And that's what Moe is so good at and has done over the years. I've taught him a lot of what he knows, but
wait a minute. The story has changed.
I think that story changed since earlier.
Yeah. When did he say his first bear?
Well, I mean, I was just a kid. I was in diapers, man. That didn't count. No. So, and I know there would be a mixed group of people here. Some people that have access would be really interested in baiting bears, and then another group that might be interested in hunting bears and in big national forests. But Myron, do you have anything to add to that? I kind of want to talk to Moe about hunting bears and.
No, just that. I mean, in the world of natural resource agencies, I mean, if you're a craftsman or a tradesman or something, you just have a bag of tools, and you have, baiting is just it's a management tool, for us to get the objectives that we want out of our bear harvest. If something happened by the wayside, I mean, we would have to have on baiting, we'd certainly have to have another tool in the bag that we could use to offer up the same type of harvest numbers that we have today.
Yeah.
So it's a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool.
I can add to that what you'd said earlier about the bears in the 80s through the early seasons and even into the 90s up till they started baiting. I don't know how many people, friends, family, people that I didn't even really know would come to me when they knew I was bear hunting, just after bears. Of course, I love to deer hunt too, but I would take specific days. I'd just bear hunt during the season. They said, "Why are you wasting time after them bears? You
That's
could
what
be
Gary
out deer
Newcomb
hunting."
told me. Same thing Gary Newcomb told me.
But I've heard that from a lot of different people and different styles of people and everything. Why are you wasting your time hunting bear when you could be deer hunting? I say, because I'm intrigued by it, And a lot of those people, when I got my first in 1990, I rubbed it in on them.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that baiting has spawned a, quote, bear hunting culture in Arkansas. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And we do have a bear hunting culture in the state, and it is thriving.
Yeah.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. I don't know if you stopped in at an O'Reilly lately, but I use one because we have one right not too far from my house. People there are super helpful. I don't care if I'm getting boat batteries, car parts, whatever. Love those guys. They got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you don't have to worry if you're in a jam. The team at O'Reilly Auto Parts can test your battery for free, in or out of your car. If it needs to be replaced, they'll help you find just the right battery for your vehicle. If you need your windshield wipers replaced, a brake light fixed, quick service, they'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. Whether you are a car aficionado or an auto novice, you will find the employees at O'Reilly Auto Parts to be knowledgeable, helpful, and best of all, friendly. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things do-it-yourself auto. You can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/meat-eater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/meat-eater.
Whitetail Institute launched the food plot revolution in 1988 with a concentration on research and real-world testing of forage products specifically for whitetail deer. Whitetail Institute's research and development team of agronomy experts provide effective, personalized service. I've been using Imperial Whitetail Clover for a long time in a food plot back behind my house. In 2007, I killed the biggest buck of my life over an Imperial Whitetail Clover small quarter-acre food plot. Imperial Whitetail Clover is the only clover scientifically developed through years of selective breeding. Clover Extreme genetic stability provides extreme cold tolerance, disease, and drought tolerance. It really does. Clover is coated with Whitetail Institute's Rain Bond, a polymer coating added for enhanced seedling survivability. They have an exclusive offer for Bear Grease listeners, 15% off Imperial Clover when you use the code BEAR at whitetailinstitute.com. That's whitetailinstitute.com and use code BEAR for 15% off. Ready to win Mother's Day and cement your reputation as the best gift giver in the family? Give the moms in your life an Aura digital picture frame preloaded with decades of family photos. She'll love looking back on these memories and seeing what you're up to today. Even better, with unlimited storage and an easy-to-use app, you can keep updating mom's frame with new photos, so it's the gift that keeps on giving. And this is not a joke. Juju Newcomb has an Aura frame, and we share photos, and they're incredible. Also, my mother-in-law has one. We have them. They truly are really good, really high quality. The Aura frame is easy to set up. It takes just 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. It also adjusts the display depending on light levels in the room to maintain the true color of your photos. For real, the digital screen is amazing. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame when you use code BEAR, B-E-A-R, BEAR. That's auraframes.com. Use code BEAR at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply.
I want Moe to tell us a story of, as a bear hunter, people that don't know a lot about bear hunting and they hear you bear hunt, they're like, have you ever been attacked by a bear? Have you ever been in a sticky situation? And the truth of it is...
Many, many times.
Yeah. We're talking about bears, Brent.
Oh, no, that's not too bad.
Really, in Arkansas, our bears, I mean, it would be, if you said, Clay, I'll give you $50,000 if you can go out in the next 10 days and have a bear attack you, I don't think I could do it. I mean, like you have to, our bears typically are not aggressive and very few incidences of human bear direct conflict. Am I right, Myorn?
Correct.
I mean, it happens occasionally, but this story is one of the closest that I've heard from around these parts. But Moe, tell us your story of getting kind of
just a
scared
short
by a bear.
version of it. So
Whatever version you got.
to make a long story short, I left my house one day. At the time, I was living out in the middle of national forest land, so I could just hunt from my house. It was early bow season, and I just took off late morning. I didn't even get up early to go that day. I was just going to do scouting mainly for deer or bear. It was early, and I grabbed one of my recurve bows, and I took off from the house, and an hour or so into my slipping around looking for sign. I come up on a little bench there where there's a lot of pawpaw bushes. People from Arkansas know what they are and what they look like. They're real thick. They're not very big, and you can't see very far in them when they got green leaves on them. Anyway, I seen some deer scat there, and I thought, well, this might be a good place to come back and bring a stand and deer hunt, And
Where was that spot?
That's kind of a secret. I don't like to give those out. So.
Hey, do y'all remember Moe was on my secret podcast that I did? Did y'all hear that? He keeps secrets.
He ain't telling nobody nothing.
Anyway,
I don't even know if this is true.
You don't need to know. Anyway, I was going through and I thought, well, this might be a good place to come back and bow hunt, and bring a stand. And then about that time, some movement caught my eyes, not very far from me. And I kind of looked in front of me there through the pawpaw bushes, and I saw a small bear cub. I thought, well, there's a little bear cub. That's pretty cool. Where's Mama?
How big was
The
it?
cub was just had been born during the winter that year. It was probably 20 pounds or something other, maybe 25. They're not very big, about like a small dog. And I thought, well, where's Mama
Myorn
at?
had probably handled that cub before.
He probably had.
Myorn's handled about every cub in Arkansas.
Especially in that secret spot up there. I know he's been up there before. But anyway, I thought, well, Mama's around here somewhere. I need to find where she's at because I need to, if she shows up, I need to let her know I'm here and just ease my way out of here. Because I'd run across sows and cubs numerous times over the years. And I was looking for her, and about that time I seen movement where this can come from, this small bear. And there's another cub. I thought, well, that's cool. There's two cubs, but I still haven't seen Mama yet.
The Bear Factory.
Yeah, the Bear Factory was generating right there. And anyway, I thought, well, I'll just let them pass on by, and I'll just keep an eye out for her, and they keep going around the hill. There won't be no problem or nothing. Well, about that time, the two little peckerwood bears, here they come right towards me. They start mosing and playing and pushing on each other, and they come towards me, get closer. They get with probably 10, 15 yards of me. I thought, well, that ain't good. They're going to get way too close, and I still haven't found Mama yet. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember if I talked to them or motioned myself, but I got their attention, and they both just stopped and looked. And I think I may even kind of waved my bow at them or something other, maybe said something real light. They just jumped into the bushes, out of sight. I thought, well, that's good. But I thought, I still haven't seen Mama yet. So I went to just back up and get out of there, but I kept looking because I didn't know if she might be behind me or where she was at. And about that time, I see movement, and here comes Mama out, right where the cubs did, out there about 25 yards. And she had her nose down, just sniffing like mamas do. She was following her cubs around, just staying where they was at. And I thought, well, do I need to let her know I'm here or to see what happens? So I think I just sat there for a few seconds, and then she turned sniffing and started coming the same way they did towards me. I thought, this ain't good. This is not good.
How big would you say she was?
She was your average sow bear out in the mountains.
1,200.
500 pounds.
About 800 pounds.
500 pounds.
I would say she was 150 to 170 pounds.
See, this is an honest man right here. Do you think you can buy that, can't you? 150, 170.
absolutely.
And looked like she was not that old a bear. I figured that might even been her first cub she'd ever had, But
Oh, now we're speculating. Okay.
I'm speculating like you do all the time. So
Agreed.
anyway, she started that same direction. I thought, I got to do something. So I think I just in a soft voice said, hey, bear, hey, bear, hey, bear. She looked at me and raised her head up and looked at me on all fours. I thought, I got to get out of here. So I knew where she was at then, so I'm going to start backing up. Well, I start backing up and just talking to her, and she just standing there looking at me. And then I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember all of a sudden one of those cubs made a little ball sound. Went, "Brr." And I looked to my left, and he'd climbed a pawpaw bush right beside me right there.
Oh, no.
I mean, like, from me to you, just right there. And I'm like, this is not good. And when he done that, you could see her demeanor change. Her hair bristled up. She puffed up, just, I don't know. I know you've probably seen them do that.
Time or two.
Yeah.
And when she done that, I thought, well, I got to do something. So I went to back up, and before I even knew what happened, she made kind of just a like that, and she was on me before I could even move. I mean, just bam, right on my face, snapping her teeth, and I stuck my bow up in her face like that between me and her and just started hollering at her and backing up. She was biting, snapping at my bow, and once I remember she swatted at me, but I think she was just trying to scare me by swatting leaves off the ground or whatever. And But then she made a big lunge at me, and I don't even know if I was ready or what caused it, but she lunged at me like she was going to try to knock me down or bite me or something other. And I just remember raising up, and I kicked her right in the face with my boot.
Wow.
And it just stunned her. She just froze like that, and I really got loud then. I won't repeat some of the things I was probably saying. But I just kept backing up and hollering at her. And I guess I got far enough that she didn't think there was any danger. And I don't remember if the cub made another ball sound or what, but then she acted aggressive again. She started towards me again, and I got real loud that time, and I even poked at her with my bow. She stopped again. I just kept backing up, hollering real loud. I mean, really loud. And I finally got not plumb out of sight of her, but she finally just stood there and froze. And when she did, while I was backing up, she turned and went over into the bushes where the cubs were. And she kind of, I don't remember if she bellered at them or whether she swatted at them. But anyway, she got that one off the tree and the other was still on the ground, and I seen them move off into the pawpaw bushes. So I just kept backing up fast and got quite a ways from them. And I caught my breath. And then I think there was actually a log there, and I sat down on it just to rest. I was probably 200 yards from where the bears was at, thinking about what had just happened. And then I realized then I carry a quiver on my side, and I had an arrow with a broadhead in my hand, and I never remembered getting it out of my quiver. I don't know if I was thinking in my mind that she was going to get me down or what. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I had it in my hand, and I thought, I don't even remember doing this.
Wow.
And then I got up and went home, and that was a story for sure that I'll never forget.
Wow. That's cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What year, about what year would that have been?
That was probably 2006, 2007, something like that.
Oh, really? So it was
5,
in
6, 7.
sort
Yeah, it was
of
in
modern times.
Yeah. Not old like I am. So
Yeah. Wow. You know, I've only heard one other story that kind of rivals that, and I can only tell it secondhand, and I'll do it real quickly. And it's an Arkansas-based story. Now, you can go a lot of different places and get bear stories, and you know, grizzly bears out west is a whole different ball game. Like, you know, our black bears are just not that aggressive typically. Grizzly bears are for real; they'll eat you and hurt you. You know, so if you're in the greater Yellowstone region where there are grizzly bears in the lower 48, it's a different story. But for here, that story right there is pretty
Rare.
wild, coming from somebody that is reputable like Mr. Moe. I had a friend, and I'm telling this story secondhand. He was bow hunting and used a climber tree stand in the Ouachita's, setting up in a big pine tree, way up a pine tree, and he had walked in that morning in the dark. Well, just after daylight, whatever time, he sees a bear, and he has no interest in shooting a bear. He could have, his bow season. And this bear has its nose on the ground like a hound, and it's trailing him, just walking right where he walked. And he was just like, that's kind of odd. And the bear just comes right up under his tree stand, sniffs up the tree, and just looks straight up at him. And he, as I remember the story being told, you know, he talked to the bear just like, hey, get out of here. You know, and the bear started popping its teeth at him and kind of getting bristly. And the bear walked off and kind of did it. When they get aggressive, they kind of bristle up and kind of strut almost like a turkey. But he walked out there, and then he whether he ran back, but basically a cycle of 3 or 4 times that bear would run to the base of his tree, and it would run up like two or three jumps. And then he was like, hey, you know, his intensity went up, and it came up like halfway up the tree. It went down, and before you know it, that bear, he said, was coming over the top of his tree stand. And he had a bow, and he was trying to shoot it when it was coming up the tree, but every time he leaned out, his arrow came off the rest. If you're a bow hunter, you know what I'm talking about. You're trying to shoot straight down. And he could not shoot that bear until he was able to be about like this. And he shot that bear right in the throat when it was even with him.
Point blank.
Yep. And anyway, that story was told to me by, and I know the guy it happened to. And anyway, that's a wild story too.
Was it a male or female?
It was, he never recovered the bear.
Oh.
The bear dropped out of the tree, ran off, and never found it. But he believed it to be a juvenile male. Really? Which makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, maybe.
Really?
Do you know any wild stories,
My
Myorn?
man is still in the tree today.
He never came down. He texted me
He
that.
never came down.
The battery ran out.
Send food.
I mean, Moe's is probably about the craziest one that I've heard. But
Yeah.
I mean, working with bears as many years as I have, I can absolutely see what happened to
Yeah.
you as being, a legitimate deal. And, I mean, doing all the den work that I've done over the years and everything else, having females with cubs and all that, I mean, sure, they can be protective. The adage mama bear. I mean, that saying came about because of a reason,
Yeah, it's
because
true.
mama bears can be so protective of their cubs.
Yeah.
But, outside of that particular scenario, I mean, black bears just inherently aren't known to exhibit predatory behavior
Yeah.
like a grizzly bear is or
Mhm.
something like that. They have had black bear attacks in British Columbia or some places up north, predatory black bear attacks.
Right.
But
Which
you
is
probably have a
different.
standard,
A
much
predatory
different.
attack would be a bear
Uh,
seeking you out.
Actually stalking, walking you down, and sizing you up, and it's a very distinct behavior pattern. And so it's, bears are bears.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Miss Newcomb, have you ever had any tough bear encounters?
Does he usually make you talk?
Well,
this way?
I was just thinking, your story kind of reminded me, and your story of last week. My son was playing basketball, and someone fouled him, and I kind of felt some of those same urges of that mama.
You felt like that?
I like to get hold of
him, snapping my teeth. Yeah, no. But I thought what Myorn was talking about, how the old timers in Arkansas will talk about how they saw bears in the 30s and 40s, and Clay knows this story. But my great grandpa was kind of a legendary man in our little tiny town of 400. My brother's here, and he could attest to when people found out that was our great grandpa, they'd be like, "Oh, Louis Joplin, strongest man I ever knew. One time he killed a bear with his bare hands," and that was like an actual thing we heard. He killed a bear with his bare hands.
When
He didn't let her talk long.
Misty,
Yeah, I know, all done.
Is that where you?
Well, what I was going to tell him is that, and so when I started dating Clay, I told him like he was interested
My
in bear.
grandpa killed a bear with his bare hands. What she said.
well,
It's
and
kind of like you had me at hello.
Yeah, exactly. And we would hear stories about him, like that he caught logs. You kind of just don't believe stories like that. Like I saw a whole truck of logs. He caught him with his own back. We'd kind of, try to get him to talk about it. He was a pretty humble guy, and sometimes he would be like, "Oh yeah," and he would just real mildly be like, "Yeah," basically. No arrogance whatsoever. Tell us, I did catch an entire thing of logs. So you hear these stories enough, and I told Clay when we started dating, I don't know if it's true, but everyone in town tells me he killed a bear.
So what did I do?
He researched it.
I went and asked him. He was 89 at the time, so this we've been married for 21 years,
Yeah.
so it would have been while
Good thing
we
you
were
got that
dating.
right.
Yeah, it was while we were dating.
It was while we were dating, so it would have been, right at the end of his life. And I asked him, I said, "Did you kill a bear with your bare hands?" And he said, "No, but I killed one with a rock." And what happened when I think we figured it to be in the 1930s in
wow.
Polk County. So this is a real deal. He lived right around Hatfield, Arkansas, in Polk County. And he said he was walking home from school one day, or maybe not school, I don't know. He was just under 20, he was a kid. So under 20 years old.
Yeah, I think he was around like
We'd
13.
have to do the math when it would have been. It may have even been in the 20s.
I think it was in the 20s, and I think he was 13 years
It's
old.
been a long time since we've done the math. But he said that he was walking home and he saw a bear cub cross the road in front of him and run up a sapling. And he just picked up just what would a kid do back in those days? He picks up a rock and starts chunking rocks at this bear. And, at that time, you can't blame him. This was a vermin. These people were trying to make a living off the land.
And I
this
thought
was
he
a
was
threat.
scared.
What's that?
I thought he was scared. Or I guess the bear was, yeah.
He knocked it out of that tree and killed it.
Wow.
And but why that story is unique and what we've talked about is that I'll have to go back and do the actual math of how old he was when he died and when it all happened. But it would have been probably in the 1920s, which there were not supposed to be bears in western Arkansas during that time.
Exactly. There's no doubt in my mind there was remnant bears running around.
Yeah.
Papa believed there shouldn't be any there.
Yeah.
If I see a bear, I'm going to kill it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did. That's what happened to the dinosaurs.
Yeah. Hey,
we're gonna. I want to transition to talking a little bit about like how to kill a bear, and there's 1,000 different things we could talk about. But James, a couple years ago, killed a bear in national forest on purpose, non-incidental kill, like very much so on purpose. And I think sometimes that's the most accessible way for somebody to hunt is just go out in national forest. That being said, I think you should go somewhere else. You shouldn't hunt
Yes.
here. They're not laughing.
They're
Good.
not.
They think I'm serious. No, it's no stretch to say that killing a bear in national forest in Arkansas or Oklahoma or Missouri is a very difficult hunt, but a doable hunt. And James did it the first year he tried, which don't be encouraged by that.
No,
you probably
no.
can't.
I tried it for 10 years.
Yeah.
The Daniel Boone, when Daniel Boone went into Kentucky, crossed through the Cumberland Gap and came back after
Just
2
so
years.
y'all know, this is like my life. Okay, I mean, we'll be talking about something. He's like, that reminds me of Daniel Boone.
I like to talk at Misty too. I talk at James. I talk at Brent.
I'm not as willing as James.
You talk at
No, listen. So,
You just like to talk.
yeah, well, I mean, I guess so. No, so Daniel Boone, when he went into Kentucky and for 2 years went on a big trap line, and I mean, there was nobody there except some few bands of Native Americans, and he was torn his whole life of telling people about it because by him telling them about it, he ruined it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the story of us in a way, but like we want to share what we know, and it doesn't do any good to hold stuff back. But I will say, Georgia and Tennessee, West Virginia are way better bear hunting, and that is actually not a joke.
You can take more bears in Georgia. That's for sure.
Oh, they have bigger bear populations.
Yep. Yeah. So
There's other options you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely, if you think you want to get into
the
bear
Game
hunting-
and Fish say that. That's me because I hunt out there.
I hunted last year and the year before that. It's the only times that I've ever bear hunted. I've seen 2 bears. One of them's dead, and the other one ran across the road in front of me before the season was open. So it's hard, and if you haven't done it before, it's a lot of fun. You just kind of have to set your mind to what you're going to encounter, how you want to go about it, and you measure your success more by, I think, how long you can stay out there and keep after it.
Yeah.
I scouted a couple days before the season opened. I scouted before that, but went in earnest a couple days before the season and hunted 2-3 days into the season during archery season, so put 5 to 7 days into it. And that was about all I needed. I mean, because I was done. Like, I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Bears are a low density animal. So if you think about it like a high population of white-tailed deer might be 40 deer per square mile. In good bear habitat, how many bears per square mile would we have, Myorn?
15 to 20 bears maybe per 100 square kilometers.
Translate that for us.
Todd,
Translate
Someone
that
break
into
down
English.
the conversion
Our British
calculator
guy
real
I
gets
need
quick.
it.
a biologist in their metric. Come on, guys. This is America.
What's a kilometer?
Someone convert it for me real quick.
Anecdotally. Give me an anecdotal, like a bear per square mile. 2 bears.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I'll convert it for you
Okay.
to land base
62. Someone.
62
what?
square miles. Square miles.
62.
So 25 bears per 62 square miles. Man, that's some really.
mean,
Give
what
us
are we
some
talking
bear.
about? A half a
Give us some
bear.
bear.
That's
Give us
just
some
a half
bear.
a
about 0.6 bears per square mile.
Okay,
maybe.
so there's our number.
Right.
So 40 deer per square mile,
Or Horatio.
0.6 bears. Those are the size bears these guys kill. 0.6. No, that's good info. Yeah, and so I mean that's like prime bear density. So to qualify what James was saying, you can't be validated by seeing game. I mean, we're used to deer hunting in like the golden era of whitetail deer hunting in North America, and we go out and we don't see deer. We're like, what's wrong? Man, when you bear hunt, that's what I love about it. You can't be validated by seeing game. I mean, I'll go seasons without seeing a bear in Arkansas.
Me
Moe
too.
will too. And I mean, we're doing stuff very much so on purpose and don't see a bear.
So
the whole season doing what we.
So what you're saying is I'm as good of a bear hunter as you guys are?
You were that one season.
You were one season, apparently.
You were for once.
Hey, even a blind sow finds an acorn once in a
Jonathan
while.
Wilkins over there. Jonathan, raise your hand.
Yeah, he killed a bear.
Jonathan did the same thing James did. Jonathan set out several years ago, and he didn't even live over here, but traveled into the mountains in western Arkansas, hunted a couple years all on his own, and killed a bear last year. Didn't you, Jonathan? Yeah. So I mean, this is
It's
a
doable thing.
Yeah, but you probably shouldn't even.
You should try to do it in Georgia or
I would try
Tennessee,
to do it in Georgia.
somewhere else.
Yeah, way more bears over there.
And definitely not at that place that Myorn mentioned. I don't
Either
hunt there.
one of them.
Yeah.
You know, I give bear hunting seminars around the state usually before bear season comes about or before you can bait. And I really tell people, I mean, there's two different avenues to bear hunt. You can bear hunt on private land or you can bear hunt on public land. And of course, private land, there's certain techniques that can benefit you in establishing a bait station. And I tell people all the time, I kind of go through the processes of finding natural bait stations on public land.
Right.
And I can attest to you, everyone here, that a natural bait site can be every bit as effective as, a man-made bait site.
Or even better at
by
times.
What he means
Or even
is,
better.
Find a natural food source.
You find that one particular white oak on a bench that's throwing acorns like crazy, right?
Mhm.
You almost said it.
You almost said it wrong.
Yeah.
Or you find that one particular black gum tree that's throwing, berries like crazy right at the front of the season. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I tell everybody,
Or hickory nuts.
Or hickory nuts.
Hickory nuts, as we call them mostly in Arkansas.
Yeah, hickory nuts. So, I mean, I really kind of harp on that point to people. If you don't have access to private land and to do all that, a natural bait site can be every bit as effective.
Let's just run through that just a little bit. Like in the eastern deciduous forest, really this would apply in Georgia and anywhere you can hunt bears over here. Yep. In the fall, we don't have spring bear seasons in the South. Very few spring bear seasons in the lower 48. Maine has some spring bear seasons on some tribal lands, and Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Washington has a limited. Anyway, we hunt bears in the fall. And hard mast is going to be probably the main thing you're going to key in on. That's what the bears are keying in on, and that would be acorns, whether it be red oak acorns, white oak acorns, whatever kind of acorn there is. It would be possible bear food, but just like white-tailed deer, they're going to be selective. They're going to high grade their food, just like you or I would if there was a buffet out here. We'd go through and we'd say, I want that, I don't want that, I do want that. But if there was a limited amount of food and there was only one or two options and we had to eat, we'd eat a lesser desirable food. The number one desirable food, I mean, we can just almost say without question, is going to be white oak acorns during the time we're hunting. It's
Absolutely.
just a small window of time that we're keying in on these bears. Other times of the year, they're eating berries, they're eating soft mast. We're not as keyed in on them during that time. Myorn mentioned black gum. That's something you don't hear a lot about, but a couple years ago, I found a black gum tree. It was about 18 inches in diameter at the base, and it looked like it looked like a telephone pole that they had been climbing for years. Just, claw marks, branches all over the ground, and there were 8 piles of bear scat under that single tree.
Yeah.
Bears were just climbing. It was probably 1 or 2 bears. They were climbing that tree, breaking the branches out of that black gum, and black gum has a little soft berry about that. Looks like a raisin. And, boy, at the right time.
When they hit, they are loaded with berries if they hit.
Yeah. And, so acorns, black gum, you might find a persimmon tree that the bears are hitting. Persimmons are they're just little windows when they're using those. Hickory nuts, beech nuts, parts of Arkansas are going to have some beech timber, few parts of Arkansas, but when beech nuts they're going to eat those hard and heavy. That's primarily what they're eating in the fall. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I
Misty?
said, I'd say acorns and then black gum berries. And then the hickory nuts is what I've found myself. But if you're in, like you said, in where the beech nut are, those are high protein content mass. When they do hit, they just don't hit very often.
Yeah. Right.
They will sure go to them then.
And what I've found is that
bears will use natural food very similar to they'll use a bait site. I mean, just that's what Myorn's point was, is that a bear is extremely habitual. If you can find where he's been, he's probably going to come back. And this is like the dream scenario that I would have only found. I mean, I talk about scenarios like this, and you're like, well, heck, he must find a spot like that every year. Not true. I mean, I probably found this 3 or 4 times in my life, but this is what you're after. So I like to talk about what you're after. What you're after is to walk onto a bench or on the top of a ridge or wherever the acorns would be and find a significant amount of your food source and then a significant amount of bear scat. I mean, I've been in places where you walk up there and it looks like hogs had been in there, and there's bears, find 10 or 12 piles of bear scat in a 100 square yard area, some of it very fresh, some of it old, acorns on the ground. I mean, it's just, if you can find that, you're in the chips, and then you just hunt it smart like you would hunt a deer. You got to watch the
Only
wind.
smarter.
Or smarter.
Smarter.
Yeah.
So when you find that, you treat it just like a deer spot. You got to get the wind right. But what I found and what I didn't know until I did it is that you can kill a bear on the ground. I can't believe I'm telling people this stuff. Doggone it.
All your secrets.
You can stalk a bear in dry leaves on the ground when he's got his face eating acorns. And that's what I was unsure of. And 10 years ago, when I was kind of just like trying to kill one in national forest, I'd be out and the leaves would be dry, and I'm sitting here with a traditional bow, and I'm like, how the heck am I going to get within 18 yards of a bear? And what I found, and I have a video on Bear Hunting Magazine YouTube channel of a bear that I first spotted about 60 yards away, and I filmed him for 18 minutes. I know it because it was on the camera. I filmed him for 18 minutes just circling a white oak tree, just circling. Never looked up one time, Myorn. And I just started walking towards him in the broad. There was nothing to hide behind. And I walked to where I could hear him crunching acorns. And then I was like, this is close enough. And I just kind of crouched down in the wide open. And that bear, eventually just kind of made his way my direction. And I killed him at 14 yards. Yep. But the leaves were crunchy, dry. Point is, you can stalk them if they're eating. Now, if they're moving, if you're like going through the mountains and you see one like coming across the ridge, he'll be I'm not going to say as spooky as a deer, but that bear is going to be alert. If you can catch them feeding, you could about walk up to them and slap them in the rear.
As long as they don't smell you.
Yep. I mean, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
What I was gonna say.
They smell you, they're gone.
Common denominator in that is the wind was at your face.
Exactly.
Bears do not see. They're kind of nearsighted. Don't see probably well as most people. They don't have little small fuzzy ears, not big radar ears like a deer. So they don't really hear that well. But a bear has the strongest nose of any land animal. And they use it. They live or die by it. So if you want to be a successful bear hunter, that is probably the most important factor that you can never, ever leave out is wind. How thermals play, how downdrafts play, what your wind is doing, because you will never, ever stalk a bear with the wind not in your favor.
That's right. Yep.
That
So
makes
you
it
notice
hard
he
in the
didn't
mountains.
say use scent control products. He said play the wind like a real man.
That's a whole other argument.
Yeah, no kidding.
We won't
start.
dig into that yet. How much time do we have?
We're walking into all kind of inside jokes for bear grease rendering.
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on that, and that's all the secrets I've got. I mean, like people talk to me about how do you kill a bear in national forest. I've told you everything I know right there. I mean, really, it's literally get out and pound the dirt looking for places to hunt. And now James and Jonathan, they have taken my advice and gone out and done it. So it'd be interesting to see
That
if
I
what
gave
I
to
told them
him.
was.
Yeah. Thanks, Mo.
And then I taught Mo how to hunt too.
Yeah. No, I will say that why I got into it is because it was an adventure and a challenge, is something new to do, something you could do here in Arkansas. I happened to be, I was planning to do it anyway, and then we had COVID, so we weren't going to travel anywhere. But I wanted to become a better woodsman. I wanted to just get out and see more of the state. And if you choose to do this in the national forest, you're going to see parts of the state that you didn't know existed. We live in a beautiful, beautiful place.
Not as pretty as Georgia.
Not as pretty as Georgia. Thanks, Clay. And you will challenge yourself in many, many ways to go out and do that. But that's what I wanted out of that particular adventure. And I thought there was a lot of value in that for me just on my journey as a hunter. And I'm kind of thoughtful about that kind of stuff. Not everybody is. I mean, I'm glad I brought a bear home and had all the stuff from it too. But it was a very fun adventure to go on. And that's what I would sell anybody. If you're looking for an adventure, take up bear hunting.
Yeah.
On national forest, on public land, because it's tough.
Yeah.
Real tough.
Yeah. I want to talk real quickly about baiting bears. Just kind of give the high points of baiting bears. I'm trying to just get a swath of what people might be interested in. Does that sound fair to y'all?
Yep.
Ms. Newcomb?
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Yes, very fair.
Oh, he asked her another
What do you
question.
have to say about baiting bears?
Well, I'll say two things. There's bear bait around here. I can smell it.
Well, what you smell is, Northwoods.
It smells
bear bait.
like bear bait.
Yeah.
That,
It's
this
right
whole
there.
time I've been looking for it. Where's
Wow,
the bear
she nailed
bait
that.
at?
She didn't know I brought this.
Where's the blueberry?
So, this is this is some stuff I like to use. This Northwoods bear
Yeah,
products.
it smells like-
I'm going to give some of it away.
That smells like fall.
If you bait bears,
to
just
me,
come up here.
yeah.
I'll give you some.
And then in the Clay always finds, places to go get just junk food, stuff that we wouldn't let our kids eat, and fills the back of his trunk. And when our kids were little, one of them came toddling in and
Had a
had
handful?
an expired honey bun in their hand, just gnawing it down. And I was like, "What are you eating?"
This is just normal bear
then-
baiting stuff.
Yeah, and my kids, whenever we see certain items in the grocery store, they're like, "Oh, look, there's some bear bait." That's-
Bear bait.
and it
No.
smells like that.
So when you're baiting bear, I always tell people it's all about location, location, location. Most people, they say, well, I got property in this county. We saw a bear there once or twice. Is it going to be good for baiting bears? And what I've seen is that even on a micro scale, like if you took like half of a county, there are going to be even inside, like even let's say it's the best bear county around, and you took even just a quarter of that best bear county around, there's going to be fringe bear habitat in that. There's property in that best county that you probably couldn't kill a bear on. Bears are very selective about where they're going to go and where they want to be in the daytime. And so the short version is when you're baiting bears, you want to be where the bears want to be in the fall. So it's possible that somebody's got bears, and Myron can tell you this, got bears on their place during the summer, but they're like, but when we put out bear bait in the fall, we don't get bears.
Nothing shows up.
Bears have big ranges. They're moving around.
They do. They typically have a summer range and a fall range. And that fall range, it may be 2 miles away. But in the home range of a bear, they will have seasonal ranges within that whole home range. And they definitely, some bears have their summer forage area in very close proximity to maybe where their fall range would be.
Right.
But in other bears, they may be 3 or 4 miles apart.
Yeah. And you're not, as a hunter, you're not like trying to map out home ranges of different bears. But if you have access to private land that you have permission to hunt in very secluded, remote areas that are typically connected to big blocks of national forest. In our state, the bears are on national forest. That's just the truth of it. But bears want big, unfragmented, not true wilderness like capital W federal wilderness, but they want to be in big, unfragmented blocks. That's not exclusive. Bears can adapt and can be living, in your backyard. In general, though, the bigger blocks, a big public land, rugged, rough, nasty stuff, that's where bears are going to want to be. And you'll learn over time. Like there was a time years ago where I was baiting like 11 different spots in a good county in Arkansas. And of those 11 spots, by the time season came around, we would usually have 3 spots that you could kill a decent bear at.
Yep.
That whole time we baited, though, in September, we'd have had bears at every one of those spots.
Exactly.
And as the calendar turns in September, coming to October, the white oak acorns, all the acorns start getting ripe, falling. Bears start to transition. During that time, there's just a big transition in the natural world from summer to fall, and bears start to move around, and you can hold bears early. It's hard to hold them late. Everybody that's baited bears, will say, man, I had bears, but they left by the time season came. What can I do to keep them? And I told the guy earlier today, I said, the best thing you can do to keep a bear and be able to kill him on opening day is have a spot that you can kill bears and keep them until opening day.
Yeah.
It works.
That's the secret.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So what I finally did after what
Did
I finally
did Moe teach you that?
Moe and his backwoods wisdom taught me that. What I finally did after baiting 11 spots is I said, why am I even baiting those other 8? I'm just going to bait the 3. And so that's what I did. I mean, pretty much just narrowed it down. I was like, I cannot kill a good bear at this spot, so we're just chunking it. We tried it for several years. You can't give up on a spot after 1 year. I'd baited 3 years before I was like, but but a lot of you may not have access to that many properties, so it may be a deal where you bait for 5 years and finally you get a straggler that comes in, and that's okay too. But point being, secluded land. Moe, Myorn?
And the later in the season it gets, the later in the fall it gets, the harder it is to get a bear to come to bait, like
Absolutely.
the later muzzleloader hunt or the gun hunt. It's a lot harder to get them to come to those areas. You got to try to get closer to where they want to be in that fall during the mast. They'll come to bait once they hit the mast hard, from the opening of when the acorns first fall, they'll hit it hard, but then as the acorns disperse and they get less of them, then they're more apt to come back to a bait site. But you need to be closer to where they're hanging out, hitting that mast crop too.
So Moe and I kind of worked together on a bait site one year, and he killed a bear on November the 5th over bait, which was the latest I've ever.
Pretty late.
It's pretty late. What he's trying to say, and I have people that are like, "Hey, I'm going to come bear hunt. What if I came mid-October?" Talking about hunting over bait. And I would just be like, stay home.
That's one of the worst times to try to kill them over bait.
The bear season over bait. I kind of had this revelation last year sitting over a bear bait in Arkansas, is that it is an ephemeral window. I mean, it's like a short window that comes and goes where those big bears are using the bait site during the daytime. Very short window, and it's always going to be as early as the season is open. I mean, so like when we bear hunt, we pretty much bear hunt over bait the first 3 days of season, and then our baits just die. It's like they just turn a switch. We've done it for 20 years. It's not anecdotal. It's everybody. I mean, it's like sometimes you hear people say stuff and you're like, you haven't done that very much, or you come to the wrong conclusion.
Yeah,
man, bears leave baits. They're hard to hold most years, and you better hunt them quick, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that year, you remember the reason we talked about it, because I told you I'd killed a bear with about every means there was other than my pistol.
Yeah.
And the only way I could do that was during the opening of the gun
there was a firearm
bear season. And that year it was when it opened just a few days, like 5 days prior to gun deer season.
Yeah, it was long. It was pretty.
And so we baited and got a bear coming in, a good mature bear, and I was lucky the first evening I sat there. I sat there all day, but the first evening I sat there about noon and then had to go eat about it. I'm hungry, you can tell. But
you look hungry.
Yeah, the bear came in, 30 minutes before dark, and I took it with my pistol and called Clay and said, "Get it up here. I've got a bear down. You're going to have to help me." So
we got a lot of fat off of that bear too. That bear had a beautiful coat on November 5th. The longer you wait in the season,
I've got had a rug made out of it, and it's a beautiful rug. I mean, it's thick,
of fat
coat, a lot of fat on that bear.
I remember holding a big fillet of fat that was just like, that big.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah. And then as far as what to bait with, there's basically anything. I mean, there's regulations. Look in the reg books for what you can bait. They have had to kind of get specific, but in general, just about anything that'll make a human fat a bear will eat. That's what I say. We use a lot of bread, pastries, dog food, corn.
I didn't know dog food made people fat.
That's a good touche, Moe Shepherd. Touche.
I've never tried it. Have you,
Brent?
Brent?
I stay this trim.
We're both fat,
Do y'all eat dog food?
At every opportunity.
No, we use a lot of used cooking oil. I would say that's a key component. And this is not a sales pitch. I got nothing tied to these guys, but these fryer grease additives. This is Northwoods Gold Rush.
Incredible.
It really is
Incredible.
That you pour this in with your fryer grease, put it on corn, dog food, bread, whatever. And
It really attracts them, doesn't it?
I can smell it right now.
It's
Yes.
good
Misty
stuff.
knows. That's the smell of
It's the smell-
September at our house.
That's right. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Smell of September.
We open this up in
Did you put that
September
in-
when we're having dinner together.
Hey, could you put that in a candle? Could you put that in one of those bear grease candles?
Oh, yeah.
I
Colby,
mean,
we need
I don't know where you.
Northwoods Bear Grease.
The smell of
I'm telling you,
September.
that
I'm not
stuff
sure that
really
it's-
is incredible.
It smells up here right now. Wow.
Yeah, it really does.
So
Not just
there's a
so
lot
bad.
of resources. I tell you what, if you want to learn how to bear hunt, you ought to subscribe to Bear Hunting Magazine. Colby Moorhead and Jolene run Bear Hunting Magazine. It's the only bear hunting magazine in the world. Wave at them, Colby. Jolene.
They've been a big help
for real.
us with that.
I mean, people ask me all the time. People message me and ask me some real specific question about bears, which I don't mind, but I'm like, man, I've spent the last 10 years writing about that in every issue of Bear Hunting Magazine. And so the first thing I say is you should subscribe to Bear Hunting Magazine. And but it's not a sales pitch. I'm just telling you the truth. If you want to learn how to bear hunt and see bear hunting on a big national scale, it's handy because I can only talk so much.
You got a lot of stories, a lot of different kinds of adventures and different ways to do it. And bear hunting is pretty diverse. And as a new bear hunter, I'm still learning all the different ways to do it in different places. And I like getting the magazine to see those different things in different perspectives and just add different ideas to what I might do. So it's a good resource.
Yeah. Brent, we hadn't talked to you yet.
It's surprising. It's been
What
very
you want to
quiet.
talk about?
I don't know. Closing thoughts?
Well, I'm for bear hunting.
Okay.
I'm for baiting bears. I'm for doing anything. I really appreciate where the game and fish has gone as far as the Gulf Coastal area because that's where I'm from.
That's a big
Yep.
deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal, and the ground down there is flat.
What?
Yes, sir. You don't have to. It's just like I tell you about coon hunting. You don't have to coon hunt in the mountains. And now maybe we're not going to have to bear hunt.
So you
in
won't
the
have to
mountains,
walk
too.
up a mountain?
Exactly. Well, it's just good, and I've got friends that work down at Felsenthal, the guys that I grew up with, and they see more. That's down in the southeast part of Arkansas. Actually, goes down into Louisiana, and they see more and more. It used to be he would call me, man, I saw a bear today. Now when I talk to him, it's like once every month or two.
He only calls you when he sees Black
I said,
Panthers.
how many bears have you seen? He's, oh gosh, I don't know. I couldn't tell you how many.
Yeah.
It's just it is absolutely remarkable at a place that I grew up, and there's not many acres down there I didn't put a track on that you'd never saw a bear, and now you see them. It's not uncommon anymore.
Yeah.
And it's an
Black
absolute
bears
testament. It's a testament to the folks
It
that
is.
Myorn works with, and all these folks around here that put some value on something and see the value in it, and they've been working for a long time to get it to where it's at now, and it's hats
It's
off
just-
to you.
It's a testament to great bear conservation.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it is. And
Absolutely.
it just continues to be, flagship species for the agency. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Continues to be a success story.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that Louisiana's getting a little
Mm-hmm.
after the whooping we put on them a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
You're welcome for both of those things.
Yes. The
Louisiana.
Bears
Yes.
and that.
Bears and the whooping.
Yeah. No, man, I can't reiterate enough how special it is that we have bears here and that we can hunt them like we can. So, I mean, I'm like super grateful for that. Hey, thank you guys so much for being a part of the Bear Grease Render. This show is sponsored in part by BetterHelp. Around New Year's, we get obsessed with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we've already done right. Maybe you finally organized one part of your space and you want to tackle another. Or maybe you're taking your supplements every morning and now you actually want to eat breakfast. In the last year, I've been more diligent about going to the gym on a regimented schedule, and it's made a lot of difference in my life. Therapy helps you find your strengths
so that you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/Grease today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/Grease.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase.